Hey, welcome to episode 80 of the PoddyC. This week, we're back, and
Holy.
the race is over. Congratulations to Team Liquid Maximum, 3-time in a row Race to World First champion.
Yep, for the last 5.
Yeah, it feels like ever
good.
since we started PoddyC, it's just always
When did we start
congratulating
the
you.
I
don't
think
know,
we
but
did it before FireAC, because I feel like I remember being on the PoddyC, but casting for Echo for that tier.
Mm-hmm.
all I know is it feels like almost every tier I've been like, oh, congrats Max and congrats.
Yeah, we're at least 3
So,
for 4
I think it's the
since
PoddyC
come out.
That's
yeah,
I think it's the PoddyC. I think that's the diff.
which is better than the average win rate over the past 5 years. So
yeah, it was great. It wasn't even close either. It was
yeah,
it was
Yeah,
pretty fucking. It was pretty free. So
it was cut and dry. Easy walk in, walk out, collect some loot.
Yep.
Yeah. Still no world first for Hopeful, unfortunately, but he'll have to settle with 2nd and 5th from last tier. So, that's pretty good. That's got to count for something. Can't get too greedy. That was actually crazy. If anybody ever, you ever see the argument put forward that like the Race to World First players are doing account sharing and stuff like that, like the Hopeful ban should hopefully cause you to adjust your...
dude, I feel so dumb because every time someone's been like, I'm like, man, I miss the times when you get RMT. Like, it sucks you can't do that anymore. And they're like, yeah, you don't do that anymore, Kappa. And it's like, yeah, we don't do any of that shit because you can't, because you'll get banned, because it's so stupid. And then Hopeful just gets banned. No one even knows that he does this. He just goes out and just solo act, just does the dumbest shit of all time. And now it's like, okay, well, now when I say that, I sound like an idiot because one person was dumb enough to do it.
Yeah, and he kind of got rewarded for it as well.
Yeah, he totally got away with it. We got to do splits. So our players are in there just slaving away in splits. And splits are so much worse than Mythic Plus. Like, he got to just do Mythic Plus for like 3 days, basically, while we did splits. So he got out of splits and leveled up 1 mage, or he leveled up 4 mages, but his first mage hit. So all he needed was just to level a guy to 80 real quick, and he was good to go.
Yeah, and then he didn't even need to help with his alts in the other splits because he didn't have any. So
yep. Which he actually argued he thinks that sucked for him, and I kind of agree with that. So one thing that splits do is they just give you a lot of reps. You just like see these fights a lot naturally. You end up just doing these fights for like 5 days, and it's not on Mythic, but you get better ideas of when you would personal on this class, and you kind of figure out how to do the boss on your own, rather than, like, for example, I just think, like, if you take even the best players ever, you've done PTR testing, whatever, if you throw them in on the first pull on Mythic versus having killed that boss 30 times on Heroic, you're going to be better on that first pull after doing it 30 times on Heroic, 100%. And he did not have that, and he said he felt that early in the raid.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that big time too as a non-Race to World First Raider. When you're just seeing these bosses, when you have practical experience, it makes such a massive difference. Because I mean, like, you'll hear about certain boss fights, like say your raid leader will be telling you, okay, so on Lumathar, you just gotta soak the pylons or whatever, and you gotta soak the frontal. And it's not that easy to visualize exactly how it's gonna look, but like when you actually put it into practice, it's like, oh, so this is just like what it is. And a lot of the fights are really relevant from Heroic to Mythic. Like P3 Demencies, for example, just like knowing where the circles are and like knowing roughly how the pull works and how it looks and how much your character moves. I think that's like a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it does depend on the fight, but I think a lot of the ones this tier have like basically the same cadence of abilities between Heroic and Mythic, and then there's like maybe added stuff on Mythic, but it's not like you're going to get baited. Like if you get used to the Soul Hunter's cast sequence, Mythic just like adds in Sigil of Chains and Eradicate Sides, but otherwise it's the same timing. So
yeah, it's a good point. When was the last fight besides Gallywix that was like on Mythic? It was just fundamentally different. Not like a completely different encounter, like no dungeon journal. Purely just that, because there have been some.
The timing was just different, right? It was like Tindril would be a good example of this, right?
Tindril, perfect example.
Yeah,
it's like completely unrecognizably different fight. Yeah,
because there are a lot of fights that are a lot harder, but they have the same cast sequence with some Mythic stuff added in, or the cast themselves are scarier. Yeah, I wonder what the most recent one is. I'm trying to think if there were
I feel like Calandris is a lot like that.
Yeah.
Probably unsurprisingly, we're naming some very historically hard bosses, but also in a way, having a brand new fight on Mythic is a form of difficulty because you are seeing something largely new. But like, I feel like Halandris progression was just the bombs, and those just weren't there on Heroic. So naturally,
yeah, I guess so. By that metric, then like Fire Act P3 is also.
Yeah, the seeds still exist, but the fact that you. No, I mean, actually, isn't it the same mechanic? If you get hit by things, you kill everyone?
Yeah, I guess the part is that you go from, you have 4, then 3, then 2, then 1, instead of 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, then 8. But yeah, that I guess it is similar enough that like it's sort of the heroic version of it, not a completely new version.
Yeah.
It was a cool tier though. It was I think a very visually stunning tier. The Dimensius fight being on the big screen for 5 days, the last 12 hours of which was the 2 guilds, both in kill territory, I think was probably the best we could hope for Race to World First. Again, going back to Fire Act, the last time we sort of had that, so that was sick.
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder how people are going to look back on this raid. I mean, I know a lot of people haven't like done it yet, right? It's just been watching it, and that's different than doing it. But I have a feeling that this is going to be one of the like all-time great raids. Personally, it has the aesthetic, it has great bosses. The last boss, which is usually what determines stuff like this, is just absolutely great. So I think it's gonna end up being. I asked my chat, like, do you think it's like top 5 or whatever? And
of all time or what?
Yeah. Well, top 5 is hard because that's like super subjective. But like the most recent raid that is even an arguable top 5 is Castle Nathria. I think that's like basically the only one really in the last like 4 or 5 years where it's like that would be in a decent amount of people's top 5s. And I think this raid is pretty close to that. It seems.
I feel like it's pretty good. Yeah, it does. It's a weird one because like there was a very the set of nerfs they did to the mid 3 was pretty. I don't know. Especially like Fractalus, I think, has gotten turned into a complete non-boss, but maybe that's the best thing for that fight, given that they couldn't figure out how to make it a fight. So maybe it's just good.
Yeah,
that
Fractalus is a big question mark for sure.
Yeah. And then Soul Hunter's like still being a 5 heal with like huge ranged requirements, or not requirements. Like obviously you could do it without it, but makes it way better.
What were your theories you heard, Dork?
That apparently Fractalus was there to prove Blizzard's for, how like Blizzard's been pushing the whole anti weak aura shit or add-ons or whatever, how they're planning on moving stuff. So, them having that boss as an example to be like, see, told you guys. So like we were able to remove DBM or whatever they're planning to do next expansion, and this is like the game is so much better now. We don't have fights like Fractalus.
You make the worst possible fight solved by a weak aura, and then you're like, oh, see guys, we got to get rid of weak auras.
Yeah, we did it.
But the thing is, like, okay, imagine Fractalus without weak auras. Wouldn't that just be super awful? I don't know.
It would just be raid led. I mean, we did it in PTR. We in PTR we were creating our weak aura from PTR. But we had an idea of where we wanted to go. So I just basically, every time they came out, 1 star, 1 orange, 1 diamond, 1 triangle. They see that there's no weak aura telling them where to go, and they kind of just spread out naturally from that. It's just raid led instead of weak auras.
I guess that is a lot better.
I mean, it's the same thing. If you're a raider, I guess it's just like instead of it telling you to go to triangle, you at least have to look around you and have positional awareness, which would make it a little better for sure.
Although I guess the guilds that don't have a good raid leader for that would really hurt. But also, I think any of the fights where one of the biggest causes of wiping is that not everybody is on the same weak aura version or whatever is...
Yeah, that's always the most frustrating part.
That's
I just saw Instant Dollars have that happen on Dimensius. That's great.
Yeah.
Wait, what on Dimensius requires?
I don't know. They just said like, one of them said, hey, I got assigned left, and he got assigned left, and they were like, all right, let's update our auras, and they pulled open this thing that looks like their own
That's a
tech,
classic.
I think. It has some kind of like aura updater thing, and they fixed it up.
Yeah, I know, because the liquid ones just pushed a change to the prio system for the reverse gravity, so maybe something like that was the problem. Yeah. I don't know. I think aside from Fractalus, though, it's hard to look at a fight as a bad one here. Araz is a weird case because the week 1 version of Araz that existed was like a completely different fight from what they nerfed it into. But I think they nerfed it into a good 4th boss. It's just like there was a week 1 version that was an end boss randomly, or a penultimate boss.
Can we talk about that? What's up with that? What are we? Is it like I heard someone say, and I haven't heard it. They said in some kind of interview they almost alluded to Styx and Forge Weaver as this like, oh, we're gonna make this for the race, and that's been, people have been making that up for a while now. But like, really, okay, cool, they're making stuff for the race. So why did they instantly nerf Soul Hunters? And it was very easy for the race. It was going to be easy, and then they nerfed it by 7% mid prog for no reason. And then Fractalus is really easy, and then everything else is perfectly tuned. So like that just means at least all of their actions would dictate to you that Forge Weaver was a mistake, right? Not a like, oh, first 3 bosses are dead, better give them the big challenge right now, not have good difficulty curve. It better be immediately. I don't buy that.
Yeah, I don't really either. And I feel like because they nerfed it this much, like surely they would have rather had it be lower to start with, right? Like surely the amount of guilds that killed it week 1 is not something they're super happy, because I think 5 or 6 guilds in the world got it week 1, and then,
that's so stupid, by the way. If you're like
really bad.
If you're Pop-Tart Corn Dog or
That's
Instant
me.
Dollars or whoever, and you one shot basically the first 3 bosses, and then you just are looking at this boss like, what are we even doing here? Like, that's just,
I mean, it's not even their guilds too. Like normally you would think like, oh well, I mean, they are try-hard guilds, so like no matter how much they raid, we're just gonna get stuck. But like
Right.
there were literally hundreds of guilds that were on.
yeah.
That
I mean, I know there's
waiting
hundreds of guilds,
for
but
us.
like those same guilds had the Brood Twister thing happen. But isn't it more extreme that fucking Instant Dollars is sitting there like, well,
Dude, yeah.
Yeah,
better
yeah,
not
that's true.
raid, and they're like insane. You know what I'm saying? Like that's such a clear like miss. Where who are they even making this content for, kind of thing? And I don't think it's a like focusing on the race thing. I 100% think it's an accident.
Yeah.
It's actually gone to the point where it's better for these guilds to do mythic splits.
It would have
and
been way better
guilds
for us
have
to
been
do
doing
mythic
that.
splits. Like
I have seen guilds starting mythic splits on week 1, which is crazy.
2 of the last 3 tiers, and arguably, so Liberation of Undermine, it would have maybe made sense because of the difficulty curve, but it didn't matter too much because of the fact that the loot wasn't good off the first few bosses. But yeah, this tier, like, man, mythic splits would have been the play, and we definitely got owned by trying to do a hard, fun mythic boss fight, which I don't know. I mean, there's this pretty small population of guilds that's going to be true for, but it's definitely not a good incentive to create for us. Yeah, not excited about dealing with that dilemma next year, because I think we would do splits instead if we got it back, right? Like, and that's ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a theory about
it was fun
the
though.
whole...
I mean, it was fun progging week 1 Forge. It's just if we'd been able to kill it, we had
but
like
then that's the thing. You allow these people to prog P1 Forge Reaver, and if you're the Instant Dollars or Pop-Tart Corn Dogs of the world, you look forward to raid challenges. That's why you raid so much, right? That's why you get a good guild. Okay, but then you don't even get the satisfaction of killing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you get close, and like that moment of when you finally overcome it is just you log on the reset, and the boss is just, it's gone. It's a different boss entirely, and I don't know. I mean, maybe we don't even have to talk about this because it's possible their new plan for like raid releases, which is probably an entire other topic, could maybe be addressing this. But I mean, that's I think the whole like this entire expansion showed me that like just straight up 8 boss raids are just they're not good enough to do that. You cannot do an 8 boss raid and expect to not have first tier Brood Twister, way bad, just huge mistake. Second tier Styx, awful position in the raid for that boss. Third tier, again, 4th boss Forge Weaver. They cannot figure it out. So I mean, something has to change, and maybe it's the way they're doing raids.
Yeah, I mean, this just seems to be the best formula for them for like now. This might just be a band-aid or whatever, but like the game has just gotten to the point where you have so many. The skill parity between guilds is so massive right now. You've got the Race to War First guilds, then you've got the ones directly below that, like Instant Dollars, Pop-Tart, etc. Then you've got the Hall of Fame guilds, and then you have the cutting edge guilds, then you have the late cutting edge guilds, right? So like it just goes on. And then there's also the guilds that don't even get cutting edge. And it seems like their solution is basically have some really hard bosses for the Race to War First, immediately nerf it, then have gradual raid buffs from Renown and just getting gear and etc. That's gonna like carry down, and that seemed to work kind of well for them last season.
Yeah,
but
I think that part is good. Like, and to their credit, like if they didn't nerf Forge Weaver and they left it in the week 1 state, that would have been a worse decision than nerfing it the way they did. Right, once they were at that spot, the amount of guilds that would have had a Brood Twister situation on pre-nerf Forge Weaver, even with extra gear, like that boss would have gotten a lot easier with gear, but it was never going to be. There were a lot of guilds that are like in the Hall of Fame that were not going to be killing that for weeks in its pre-nerf state. So
it just doesn't feel like an elegant solution. That's all. I mean, I've come to accept that like this is like all right. It could be worse, but I mean, like it ended up being okay, and it seems like they have bigger plans for next season.
It strikes me as one of those things that like if they moved the amount of bosses in the raid from 8 to 10, or if they added back in Heroic Week, like either of those would probably make this a lot easier to avoid if it is indeed something they want to avoid, which I think it should be, and I think it is, but like you said, Max, it's kind of hard to be sure what they actually want here. Like if they view that as a problem or a big problem or a small problem or not a problem at all, and in fact what they were going for. I don't know. Strange. Okay, do we want to talk about the next tier release? Because it's super strange as well.
I think we should. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So they are, if you're watching this first time, didn't get the Gamescom information. Next raid, they're kind of doing like a mixture between like Kata first tier raids and like MOP. So like right away, beginning of the patch, there's going to be a 6 boss raid and a 1 boss raid released at the same time. That will almost certainly have like all of the tier gear, stuff like that, and that's going to be released to the public or released to everybody. And then 2 weeks later, there's going to be a 2 boss raid released. I have not seen this myself, but my stream was saying in some interview they had alluded to the fact that like the 2 boss raid is supposed to be like crazy hard. And that is the like intent for that, which I guess that makes it seem like maybe the 6 boss and 1 boss is supposed to not be like super challenging. Like maybe the hardest boss in there is something like a Forge Weaver, right? Which is like, medium hard.
Right.
So I don't know what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, so I've also heard that like the 2 boss raid is going to be the hardest one, and it comes later than the others. I have heard that it's not like locked in the exact release cadence, but 2 weeks was what sounded like what they're currently thinking for it, between like the 6 plus the 1 and then the 2. I don't know. It's interesting. I think I kind of don't like the idea of a staggered release cadence for the raids, but I'm down to see how it plays out, because every single expansion this expansion was 8 boss raid, nothing else going on with it, and I just like them cooking in some way. So I'm down to see it, even if it turns out that it's like, okay, this is actually worse for whatever reason. This doesn't work as well as it did back in MOP or Kata or whatever. I'm still just excited to see them cook a little bit, but yeah, I wonder how it's going to make the race work, and also like if it is super easy, like is there going to be a noticeable amount of guilds? Also, like if they're aiming to have an easier than normal raid, is that good? Because the easier than normal raids we've had in the past have typically been pretty bummers in the community perception. Like even people that like gear, I don't think there's super fond memories of like Emerald Nightmare and tiers like that have been the easy tiers.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a theory. Now I'm giving them a lot of credit here because, sometimes it just doesn't play out the way you think it's going to. But my theory is this could be a way for them to tackle splits during the race. And also because they want to get rid of that really bad. Anytime you talk to Ian or any WoW person that deals with raids, they're like, what can we do to get rid of splits? They don't like it either. And basically, without getting too far into it, unless you're like someone who's watching this for the first time and you come up with some crazy idea that definitely has been thought of someone before, there is no like real elegant solution to this. They want to get rid of that really bad. So I think it could be addressing that. And I think it could also be addressing the sticks problem, where it feels like, and if people feel this way, I think it's certainly valid, that raids feel like they're made for people that are not you. Like you go into Mythic and you get to Forge Weaver and you're like, this doesn't make any sense. And you're right, because it doesn't. Maybe the way they do that is this 6 boss raid that has all the loot that people want, all the good trinkets, all the tier gear. That's going to be much more approachable than raids have been recently. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, like that's what their goal is. And then the last 2 bosses are going to be like Crucible of Storms tier crazy as fuck. Where it comes out, the gear from there isn't really the goal. It's more just the challenge. And that would mean like, yeah, the first 6 bosses, 7 bosses, whatever, they're probably going to get smoked by us pretty quick. But that's not the point. Like they are okay with that. Most raids come down to 2 bosses anyway. I think the last 2 bosses in this raid accounted for like 80 to 85% of the pulls or something. So if you can just separate that into a different instance, have the rewards be more, relatable to everyone from the early stuff, Mythic Plusers, whoever. And then once we get there, we're not going to be doing a million splits. We would have already been geared for a few weeks. So once we actually get to the real bosses, the instance comes out and we're gaming. So it like works on splits and it works on the issue right now where the raid difficulty gets too hard too fast. That's my theory, but I'm also making it the fuck up. I have no reason to think that any of that is true, but that may be something they're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, if that's how it is, I think that's awesome. So, I mean, this sounds basically like Final Fantasy Ultimates, which is kind of what I have been thinking about the entire time. Because, like, the whole idea of you have just your normal raid. Then after you do your normal raid, you get enough gear, and then Ultimate comes out, right? Which is, like, the true challenge. And this is, like, basically what it is.
Yeah, I've kind of felt like Blizzard didn't want to do that for the longest time. But if that's what they're up to here, I'm much more optimistic if that's the actual idea here is like, let's make a raid that is tuned to be hard and then a raid that is rewarding and tuned to be easy. And that way people that are like rewards motivated don't feel too bad about it. It's just like, it seemed like they weren't happy with like the low participation rate of Crucible of Storms in particular, which was the last time they had something that was like this. I felt like something that was like, oh, they're never going to do this again because not enough people played it. Right. And like, but if that's not something that bothers them, yeah, I mean, that sounds like a pretty ideal solution to those. Like if they just make it so that the 6 boss raid is kind of fun to watch, has some cool bosses, kind of fun to play and has good loot. And then you get full bis gear and you have a raid that full bis gear is what it's tuned around. And, you just watch 2 giga hard bosses, right? Like a Fyrakk and a Tindril. And you're watching the Race to World First of those. And then, maybe there's still a stacking raid buff or something so that other guilds can get there and do it. And maybe they also still get some small nerfs over time. But like it's something where like a lot of guilds wouldn't feel like they needed to go in there. And Blizzard was okay with that. I think that would be very cool if that's what they're up to. Yeah. I just kind of get the sense that's not what they're up to.
Yeah.
And that would be the versions that aren't that I'm a lot less excited about.
It's probably just like, hey, wasn't it cool when we used to release like multiple raids in the first thing? And they're like, yeah, fuck it, let's do that. Like, I don't think it was.
I think it's cool as hell. Like, I've never experienced that before, and that sounds really cool in my.
I think it's going to be not that this matters. I'm not. I can already see the YouTube comments. I'm not saying they should do this. It is going to be very bad for the race,
right?
Like terminally bad, like viewership.
Why?
Couple reasons. Number one, viewership is high at the end of races, but it's also high the whole time. There's a bunch of highs of like boss kills, and you're basically removing all of those. I don't think there's basically going to be a race for the 7 bosses that release right away.
I was thinking there would be multiple races. Like, I thought it would actually be more interesting.
I think if Blizzard is trying to make the second raid hard and they make the first raid have nuclear hard bosses, I think people are going to be very mad, and I think they're going to be right. So I don't think they can do that. I don't think they can release a Crucible of Storms and also release a bunch of hard bosses.
Yeah, I'm also like, because if there's a 2-week delay between the two, I don't know if it's hard enough that there's a race that goes on for almost 2 weeks, but then it still finishes before the end of the 2 weeks, and then there's the 2 boss raid. That's like what you've actually been prepping for. And like, how do guilds decide which is important? Because if you're optimizing for beating the 2 boss raid first, you probably aren't optimizing for beating the 6 and 1 boss raid first, right? You're optimizing for gearing up, and like you're willing to take it slower there and do more splits or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like what we might do, we might even like not even progress the 7 bosses. Like we might just straight up do mythic splits for 2 weeks, just sack all those bosses. Who cares? the later ones if they're hard, and just have objectively more eye level going into the bosses that matter, which would also be unwatchable garbage, right? So I don't know. It's, again, I'm not saying that might not be the best thing for everybody, but I have a feeling it's going to be terrible for the race. Also, there's certainly going to be no event. Everyone's going to be playing
except we're going
to
fly down 2 to 3 of our favorite casters and run.
I can almost guarantee you there will be no event.
We're going to run a stripped down event where we're still going to pay those casters the full amount, but they're just our favorite casters. We're going to fly them down like we did for a couple days of Heroic Week on Nerebar Palace, and we're going to, if we're in a position of leadership at Liquid, we're going to sell that very hard to our people that decide how events work. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It'll be like Cadrel restreaming. Like you just get the one guy in the room.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, exactly.
We need Dranos as Cadrel.
I certainly wasn't going to be the one to say it, but I mean, I guess if we wanted, I available then.
If you're willing to sign up for that job.
Dude, yeah, I'm also very skeptical of how this would look for the race, but also I agree that that's like, if it's better for the game writ large, then that should take precedence over the race. And I do think that them just like doing some weird shit with how the races, or like how the raids come out, is probably worth a shot. They haven't done it in like 10 years, so I don't know, let's see what happens. Worst case we don't do it again, but obviously if if the race is like a big deal, then killing it for a tier would be a downside. Yeah.
I'm very curious to see how it plays out. Like, I don't think it would be that bad, but I could be completely wrong. And
I think we need some more details of like, what are they trying to accomplish, and like how specifically are they thinking this will accomplish that? And then if the answer is just like, oh, we wanted to do a new cadence because we think doing a different cadence for a tier would be fun, and we didn't think about how it would affect the Race to World First or cutting edge guilds or Hall of Fame guilds, right? And like, oh, then maybe we should rethink it, right? Like if all the concerns that we brought up, but if they actually have an answer for those things, then yeah, I'm definitely down to see what it'll look like.
Yeah, I'm just glad there's a shakeup.
Yeah, I am definitely pro shakeup in general.
Bro, it would be so fucking sick if one of the raids that come out is like a 10-man raid and it's really hard. Like they could have just like, what if they just gave us fucking just give us like a normal 8 boss 20-man raid, and then like a couple weeks down the line we just come up with like a 10-man raid. Holy fuck, that'd be so amazing. Yeah,
I love the current raid sizing. I feel like, I don't know, I think that 10, like, I'm not a believer in 10. I don't know, but I know there's a lot of people that like currently don't play and would be able to with 10. So
it's just so fun. Like every season I do 10-man raiding with some friends, doing like a heroic raid, and I'm just having such a great time.
Like on retail or on classic?
Yeah, on retail.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's maybe they should make like Flex Mythic and just, don't open the last few bosses of Flex Mythic for a while, and then just only have like the first half of the raid for the first month or whatever, and that way it doesn't matter too much if it's imbalanced, because that's always the problem with like Flex is the number sizing. If a boss is really hard, it's going to be way easier at like randomly 17 people, because that's a breakpoint for some mechanic or something.
Yeah, I mean, that's just not even going to matter later on when people are just like turbo boosted up the ass and mega geared. What
do you guys think of the turbo boost? Like them pre-announcing there's going to be a turbo boost this tier?
I mean, I fully expect. We talked about this in one of the PoddyC episodes, didn't we? Like, it was fully expected to come back.
I think
people are ragey booming about it.
But we all expected it, but it's the choice to announce it is interesting. It's like, what do you want people to not feel like they like wasted their time by? Actually, I don't even get that argument. I saw a tweet about that. It's like, oh, there's gonna be a turbo boost, well, I better not play the game then. It's like, what are we? Why do you even play this game? Like, people, even without the turbo boost, people go higher key levels as months go on by just getting better and more geared generally anyway. Okay, why even play on season start then? I mean, it's just a waste of time, right? You're going to time a higher key. Like, that is such
why play 11.1?
Why play this season?
You're going to have better gear at 11.2.
Yeah, you're going to
like,
what is the I mean, but even then I find that entire argument just like almost like fascinating to think, like how do you even play the game? Like, why do you even play the game?
So I think there are a lot of people for whom a big part of the game is the illusion of like getting this gear and just knowing that you can't do that yet and you have to wait for a turbo boost is damaging to those players. Like for me, I'll go through these phases where I'm playing like a bunch of rat alts, and like I know that if you asked me intellectually about it, I know that gear is going to be irrelevant in 5 months, but it's not yet, right? And I don't know that yet. And so like if I get something out of my vault that's Vis, it's like, oh cool, I got a Vis trinket out of my vault. Like this is fun, this is dopamine, like this is worth doing a weekly key on my alt, and then opening the vault on it, and like I'm having fun with that. And I objectively do have less fun when I know that there's like a turbo boost coming to invalidate that, or like getting a belt once I knew the Delve belt was coming last season. Not to mention getting a belt this season. Good lord, what is the deal with this belt thing that they've made this season? That's awful.
Yeah, I was literally farming this shit on my warrior like a couple hours before we started the pod, and it's so
super
annoying.
tough.
We killed 3 mythic bosses this tier where 2 belts dropped.
Yeah, they said that they wanted it to be like a heroic raid level. I don't know, turbo whiff, right? Like it's better than that for most specs.
I mean, they haven't gotten this right ever since the Onyx Annulet, right? It's always questionable.
Super rough. But yeah, so I think I don't know. I think the turbo boost being like a common thing, like if at a certain point we would get it, right? If they just kept doing it every season and not announcing it and then being like, surprise guys, it's turbo boost again. It's happening again. Like at some point we would stop. We would start expecting it, right? So, but yeah, it wouldn't have been yet.
Are you guys pro the boost, the turbo?
If I say I like it, people are gonna be pissed at me, but I like it.
Just say what you think.
Yeah. Like I get the argument that it invalidates early season stuff to some extent, right? Like I think that particularly early season M+, it's always been true that the highest keys are done at the end of a season, but the process of pushing early season, knowing that there's a lot of power coming that you don't have yet, obviously, like, usually by the time Turbo Boost comes out, M+ are still just getting their BIS gear, right? But like knowing that there's a huge finger on the scale coming, I guess I think though that you can solve that. I think you could solve that by just doing like a mid-season checkpoint, right? Like just do another title and give it out 2 months into the season, right? And be like, okay, who can push the highest in the first 2 months of the season, right? And like that's you give a cool reward like that, and then I would have no problem with the turbo boost. That's the only thing that I really don't like about it.
I mean, we've learned that a lot of WoW players are reward driven. The entire game is like around rewards. So like it makes perfect sense that people would be very pissed about the idea of invalidating all their rewards. And
it doesn't really invalidate them because you just upgrade the piece you've already got, right? Like you.
Okay, but I mean, you have to like completely regrind it. It's like, all right, I've already worked. I mean, it's especially bad for alts. Like, I don't mind it on mains, but it for sure fucking blows ass on alts. If you're just trying to gear up another character, you're having to grind thousands of crests. I mean, we've had this problem in the past. You know how there was a whole discussion about like having to grind crests on alts, and then they came out with the whole discount system, but now it's just kind of like the discount doesn't even really matter when the turbo boost comes around because you just need another 500 crests.
It like invalidates it, right? It's like it makes it go back to the same amount that you needed before they made the discount exist. Yeah, I get that. It's one of those things where like people always post their screenshots of like their main with 3,000 gilded crests, and they're like, I wish I could send this to my alts. And like, why they don't let you do that, but it still is true that you feel that way really badly whenever they make a system like the turbo boost. So yeah, I guess that would be another, like, turbo boost would be good if it came with incentivizing the pre-turbo boost M+ push more, and also reducing the grind requirement that it comes with for alts. Yeah, I think both of those things would be really welcome additions to it. I think even still, it's better than not doing it. But
it's the best way of artificially nerfing the raid.
It does do that, yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's by far the biggest reason why
this raid is like 1.5 Dimensius nerfs away from just the percent buffs that are coming every week and the gear increases, putting it in the dirt. Like there's no other bosses that are going to have any trouble at all once you get.
I mean, Dimensius is going to get so much easier with gear too.
Yeah. That boss is just starting from such a high point that I think it's still going to need.
I mean, even this week compared to last week with the 3% stacking plus reset of gear, it just, that alone makes like P1, like that is like the difference in lusting P1 and not lusting P1, or pretty close. And that was a free phase versus an impossibly hard phase. That's just gone now. P2 platform checks, you can do it with deaths now. Like that's definitely pretty big. Think about this is a Fyrak type end boss where the very, very end of the boss is like the part where it just ramps difficulty crazy. You're just going to skip that, right? That's just not, you're never going to do, just like Fyrak kills, you're just not going to get to the part of the fight where it really got like that.
Yeah. It definitely does get a lot nerfed by gear. I still think it's going to take a big, like, I think there's some parts of it mechanically that they're just not going to be reasonably expecting. Like the way you have to set up the reverse gravity, I think they'll reduce the like speed that you get dragged towards the boss or something, or increase the speed that you're pulling people down.
Yeah.
Some of the precision required in P2 as well, and P3. I wouldn't be surprised if all of those took some hits, but
yeah, like most end bosses, it'll get some stuff.
I think that aside from that, though, the rest of the raids is like all those bosses every single boss gets so nerfed by gear because there's like multiple different. It's like same with Salhadar, right? Like you get them more gear, the platforms get easier, the DPS check on the fight overall gets way easier, which means you can focus more on doing the mechanics, and that one also, yeah.
I mean, but even then, like there still needs to be a pretty big health or damage required nerf, because a lot of people aren't going to be able to field the same type of comps Race the World First groups are running. Like having to require multiple Ellie Shamans for the first platform. If you don't have Ellie Shamans, it's going to be a disaster. Like
I actually think that boss is very like comp friendly, low key. Like even this week, I think Hunter is easily miss again after this.
Well, depending on how much damage your group does, right? Because like a lot of guilds just aren't going to do that much damage because of like skill diff. And
so, I think if you're trying to do it like this week with the 3%, and 5 more eye levels or 4 more eye levels than Liquid, and you're trying to do it with like your off meta comp, you're going to get farmed. But in 3 weeks time, when you're doing it at 720 with the 6% buff, I think there's no kind of comp.
Well, you also have to realize
you have to think about it. Like Ellie
right?
Shaman is only good in P1 because the check in P1 is hard to hit with the eye level. If you remove the check, you can basically run any comp in the game and just say, hey, everybody, when there are ads out, you just simply target them until they're dead. And then you will like P1 is just going to be so easy. Like that was basically like the reason you needed Ellie Shaman to kill those ads was not to kill them in time. It was to gain boss damage.
To maximize boss damage, yeah.
And that is not going to be needed, even if you're not as good with weeks of gear. So I actually think you could kill that boss. And then P2, there's like, outside of the DK requirement, you could play anything. P3 is just a single target phase. You can play anything.
What did you guys think of the DK requirement this tier, where like we were hyping up the DK grip not a raid buff thing, and then they
that
bust out the most obvious hard forcing you to play DKs mechanic I've ever seen.
I mean, they like literally said they were going to do that, so that wasn't surprising. The thing that really got me is that all this talk is about DK raid buffs, and somehow Hunters flew under the threw under the radar, and now their thing wasn't good enough for the first time in like forever. And also the same fight that didn't need Hunter hard required 2 DKs, hard required 2 Warlocks, hard, in my opinion, hard required 3 Evokers. We had 4, but you probably needed 3 to even do the fight. Time spiral wise. So that's the crazy thing is like you're missing Hunter, but also you're doing the Paladin thing again, where they removed Red Aura because Paladins just had 2 raid buffs and everyone else had 1. It's like, well, that's stupid. Okay, well now you're doing raid bosses where there's 3 classes where you need multiple of them before you ever bring one of another one. I just think the whole raid buff thing is a mess, and they would just be so much better off removing them. But they're not going to do that. And Amen. I think what they would be better off doing is just stop trying to be so clever about it and just give people a fucking 1 hour buff that is good enough to bring to a raid and just call it a day. We don't have to think about this again.
Yeah. As somebody actually making comps for my guild this tier, it was the hardest ever to like slot 20 players for Dimensius. That like we basically looked at it and it's like, okay, well, these 19 slots are basically locked in. What do we want to do with our 20th, our 1 discretionary slot for who we can bring this tier? Because like these other, I genuinely can't remove any of these other people, right? Like I need 2 gateways. I need all my evoker time spirals, right? I need my healing team to be my healing team. I need 2 DKs, and I guess a decision was whether that was blood and 1 DPS DK or 2 DPS DKs. We were thinking about cutting the monk buff because the spots were like that slim. That
you could.
Yeah, we were close to doing it. Yeah.
Quick knowledge bomb. On our kill, the amount of physical damage that was being done in the raid was 1% of the raid's damage.
Yeah. It's
Yep.
That is crazy, actually. I had the calculation as a little bit higher than that, but I was still thinking of cutting them. I guess we have a hunter and you guys weren't playing one of those, so
yeah,
that would be some of it. Although they're only like half physical when they're playing if they're playing Dark Ranger MM. But yeah, either way, that part is like, that feels wrong. That feels not like how designing a comp should be, right? Where it's like you're handed a list of 19 specs or classes that are required, and then which 3 evokers do you want to bring? Figure out whatever combination you want, as long as they're evokers.
I mean, it's just kind of crazy that we live in a world of the most amount of raid buffs ever, and we're also running into these comp restrictions and just like how much classes are getting stacked.
On the other hand, like, as long as that's not going to be a requirement for most people that do Dimensius, it's probably fine.
But at the same time, not many people are out there stacking classes, even if raid buffs didn't exist. So, like, isn't that like the whole argument for raid buffs existing?
Yeah, I guess so. If raid buffs didn't exist, would we play like 10 Ellie Shamans on Dimensius or something?
It's already hard enough to fill a raid with people with decent skill parity and don't hate each other. So why are we also limiting it to a very hyper-specific amount of classes instead of just having people play whatever they're best at?
Yeah, that's fair.
Exactly. Because like for a lot of guilds, they don't have the luxury to just stack 10 mages or whatever it might be. Like they just want to play whatever their best classes are. And so if they don't have a demon hunter or whatever raid buff they need for the raid, we're getting punished heavily for it. And in fact, last tier, I've heard of like so many guilds that apparently didn't even have some of these raid buffs. Like there were guilds out there that were getting cutting edge that didn't have a demon hunter, and it's not like they didn't want to not have a demon hunter. They just didn't have the choice to have a demon hunter. So I don't know. It just doesn't really like do anything for the rest of the game.
Dude, speaking of demon hunter, I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was actually an Easter egg in this raid, and they've confirmed it is actually true. There is going to be a new demon hunter spec. I don't know how I missed this when they made a demon hunter fight with 3 demon hunters, but yeah, that was actually a little hidden hint that there's a new spec coming. It's called Devourer, and it's Intellect Warglaive range.
I did
mid-range
not see
caster.
Int coming. I thought like maybe like some kind of mid-range thing. I guess they're kind of building it like a survival hunter where like you're in melee, but then you can go in range for a little bit and it's fine. It kind of seems like the idea. Looks fucking sick.
It does.
Animations look crazy.
I don't know if you guys had this problem ever in like Aberrus or the start of Dragonflight where like you look at your raid depth chart. I guess you guys probably don't do this anymore, but like we have discretionary alts in my guild, so people, you just play whatever alts you want as long as you're okay at it. And we had this situation where it's like, okay, we have 40 evoker alts that are trying to get into these into our splits because everybody just wants to play evokers. I feel like Devourer Demon Hunter is going to be like that as well. We're just like, whatever everybody's maining, they're all alting a Devourer DH because that thing looks so fun. Looks cool.
I mean, not to mention newer created things are often made really well. Like, I mean, a lot of people don't like AUG, but like pretty eloquent how they made that. Prez is fucking awesome. Like Preservation is like one of the coolest design specs in the entire game, and Devastation, for how simple it is almost like Ret Paladin tier, always fun, so like there's a good chance that this spec is going to be really, really fun to play. I wonder how annoying it's going to be visually, or how many times in dungeons a brand new whatever the spec is called of Havoc, where it's shooting a 35-yard I-beam is basically what it is, their new ability. It's an I-beam that it goes 35 yards. Bro, if you were to just right now Havoc DHs, their I-beam went that far, they would pull everything in the world.
That goes hard.
But I'm sure they'll get used to it.
Yeah.
They could just make
it'll
it
be funny.
Combat.
Putting Havoc players on a like caster as well. There's gonna be some funny clips, I'm sure.
Oh,
that
definitely,
this creates. Yeah. I'm also like that. When I heard it was Intellect, I was like, oh, I don't like that. That's just griefs the DH like loot pool so much as well for existing demon hunters. So that's tough. But it's one of those weird things about WoW, right? Like there's some classes like rogues or mages that just use the same stuff for all their specs, and there's some like druids where your loot pool is just you've got tank stuff, you've got healer stuff, you've got int agi, and so DH is just moving a little bit more in that direction, I guess.
I think you're gonna see AUG. You remember how bad some AUGs would be?
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys remember that? Like the season AUG came out, like people were doing the highest keys with them, but bro, if you got a Fodom reroll AUG evoker and the keys, this was before the key squish, but like in a 20 through like 25, 26 that season, bro, you saw some shit you will never unsee for the rest of your life. Like it was just
at least
so
this one's
bad.
like a DPS, right? But yeah, I think you're going to see some melee players playing this caster in
that's
melee.
A big thing.
I guarantee.
Yeah, but that's a big
you.
thing. Like playing caster in melee are very different. It's like almost like playing healer in range DPS. They're just like different things. And I think you're going to see a lot of Havoc players stinking it up in ranged for sure.
Dude, it apparently it has like two different builds, one of which is dashing in and out of melee, and the other is like a sort of Shadow Priest style Void Form extension, like
Holy
Metamorphosis
fuck.
extension thing. So
that
those
sounds
sound
that sounds incredible.
So fun.
My only hope is they balance it so that I can play both of those, because I would very much like to.
Yeah.
I'm super excited for this. Seems like a really fun thing for Midnight, because Midnight doesn't have a new class, but this new spec I think is doing most of that excitement for me.
I didn't think there was going to be like, I think in recent, like the past like 6 expansions or something, the expectation is you get new class, expansion, new class. It's not, I believe, it's not like new class, one expansion goes by, new class again. I think that has happened one time. It was Wrath of the Lich King into Mop. There was like a new class in between there, but I believe every other one has been.
And then it was Mop to Legion was only over WoD, right? And Legion had DH.
Oh, true. Yes,
but
yes. But
since then,
since Legion,
down.
which again was 9 years ago, it has been at least 2 expansions in between.
Yeah, I'm also not super surprised by that cadence slowing down a little bit. It seems like as long as we're getting something cool, it doesn't have to be a full new class especially if the expansions are coming at us more quickly, which is another interesting thing about Midnight. So the fine print on Midnight says June 30th it will be released on or before, which I think is legal stuff they need to take pre-orders in the EU or something, because that they have some consumer protection stuff over there, something we're unfamiliar with here, but they
some weird
they have to
shit.
They have to tell you when it's coming on or before, and then they have to refund you if it misses. So they've put that, historically it's been about 4 months ahead, right? 4 months of buffer time so that they can delay without having to actually issue all those refunds, which would place Midnight release in like March or February or something. That would be sick. And they've never released a WoW expansion in the spring or winter, but that could be cool. It could be fun to be not having this like end of expansion that lasts a year, because the last couple expansions there's been like I remember there were 3 raids within a year and then no raids for a year. And then this time there's just been 3 raids within 11 months or 12 months or something.
If they are not doing Fated, and not to say that they should, but if they're not doing that, they're not doing Plunderstorm, which they announced recently. They're just doing Legion Remix, and this is worst case scenario. We're doing this farm period for like a year or like 10 months. That is going to be among the darkest days that have ever happened in WoW. That's going to be so bad. But I don't think that's going to happen. So
I think it'll be out sooner as well. It is interesting. They did also confirm there's not going to be a Fated season, which I think a lot of us expected after how badly received the last one was, but that's going to be nice, I guess, not having Fated.
Also, another weird thing is they haven't announced MDI or TGP yet. You know anything about that, Giles? Because like normally they would have announced it like at the beginning of the season or a little bit before, right? But we're done with the Race to the World first. We're like, what, 3 weeks in or some shit, and they still haven't announced anything, and that's extremely weird.
That's right. I'm prepared to make an official MDI announcement here on the PoddyC. No,
oh shit.
I know nothing. I never.
I mean, even if he did know something,
he knows. He just can't tell. But it's okay. Exactly, you can tell me after the pod.
We are all of our effort right now is being focused on adding some more potion vendors with potions you can't use to different places around the world. So a little bit of a minefield we're building on the tournament realm.
Yeah.
That's delayed the announcement. Yeah. Okay. What other stuff you guys want to talk about? We've got the other race stuff. Method.
Yeah, sure. We can talk about method.
What's
your all's take about that?
About method?
This going into this tier was
dude.
Finally going to be a 3-horse race. Predictions had Echo and Method at the same chance to win.
Yeah, well, that prediction was like on your Twitter, which is
there was also one in the I guess I saw on like the Raid Leader Exchange Discord where that was there was a similar poll posted and it was the same where Echo and Method had the same percentage.
Yeah, that is quite wild to me. I don't know. I mean, I feel like for the 5th tier in a row, the narrative has been, oh my goodness, Method. It's a 3-horse race. They're getting closer and closer. This could really be the tier. Oh, they got a close 3rd. Next tier, they're really ramping. Next tier, that's going to be the tier for them. And at a certain point, you got to sort of, right, like at some point, they actually have to win or get
well, I mean, this tier was different as well, because, the whole idea is that Echo lost a lot of their superstar players and Method gained a bunch of them, so like that was supposed to be the whole narrative coming to this tier.
That was something that I think made people feel like it, but I don't know. I feel like there's something that you don't gain by just getting more mechanically good players. It's like the analyst and 100%. Leadership core that is just fundamentally. You have people like the Liquid analyst leadership team, Bubba, Max, whatever, those sorts of people. You have those people on Echo with Miraz and Roger Brown, right? Like those sorts of characters. And I just don't think I think that chasm is still pretty insurmountable between Method and 1 and 2, whichever order you put 1 and 2 in, which obviously Liquid's won the last 3. So I think it'd only be fair to put them in 1, but looking at this tier, it's a very close 1 and 2 still. We get a very exciting race there. Even though Method finished only a couple of hours behind second, it wasn't actually that close.
Fake. That is such fake news.
Well, okay, sure. So that's actually something I wanted to ask you guys about. Like, how much do you guys think the analyst issue matters compared to how good the players are? Like, at the end of the day, are the players
issue? What does that even mean? Analysts, like,
well, you know
just
how
having people that can make a strat from ahead and like,
that's not even typically
trailblaze
what
the
analysts
boss.
do. That's where I always get confused. Like, that's not.
Well, I mean, but it's more than just analysts, right? Like, the way I see it is also like people who manage the splits and just like the whole everything behind the scene, not just like the players. Because like at the end of the, like, can you get a group of 20 players who are just insane at the game and they'll just win Race to World first, or at least be like top 2?
Never. No, you're like,
you wouldn't even be close.
What if they're like literally the best ever?
If you created a raid team with like, have you guys ever played a sports game like Madden or NBA 2K or whatever, and you ever created a player and you just like slam all that shit to 99 and you're just like the best at everything? If you were to create a raid team of like all 99 players and you had just never done the raid before as a group, you would get fucking shit on. There's just too much innate knowledge and there's too much problem solving that's happening constantly. And how good you are is how efficiently, creatively, and quickly you solve those problems and move on to the next one. And if you don't have experience doing that, you just have no chance, to answer your question. So it's player skill is super important, and it's probably the main differentiating factor between us and Echo, because we both have a baseline of we know how to do this thing. So when you're talking about winning the race, as far as like beating Echo, player skills plays a huge factor. But like, for someone else coming in without that experience, they don't really have a chance until they gain that experience.
Yeah, that kind of answers the question.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like me personally, when it came to expectations, I thought it would be like Echo would still get completely shit on by you guys. Like, I thought it would be like, Liquid wins by a ton, and then
you thought it was just like Echo have gotten brought down.
Yeah, like Echo's like so behind now,
way in the lead.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, this tier definitely shattered that expectation for anybody that was.
Yeah. I think that was like the hugest, or that was like the biggest difference for me. Like I was not expecting Echo to play the way they played. Although to be fair, a large part of it is I also felt like, a lot of what made it so close was Liquid didn't play as good as I expected.
Yeah, we played bad. That's the issue with thinking anyone played insane or thinking anyone played bad, is how good anyone's perception of how well or bad Echo RS is doing is purely by the only barometer for that is how well they are doing relative to the other guild. So if we play bad, they're playing insane, because you're like, look how well they are doing compared to this other team. Like I use this example, if we just didn't hard throw Fractalus and we kill that boss first, we're ahead on Nexus King the whole time, we didn't lose like 6 hours of progression, the Echo would have played exactly the same, but the narrative of how well they played would have changed. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, I do think that anybody who was like, oh, Echo aren't going to be competitive anymore now that they've lost these players or whatever, like that clearly is not true, right? Echo are still very, 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 very good. They came within 0.28% of winning the thing as well, which, man, what a heartbreaker that must have been. I think everybody kind of afterwards, whether or not you were a Liquid fan or an Echo fan, you felt bad for Echo at the end of the race, right? Like that was a way that we can all relate to not killing a boss, and then, obviously it's not as high stakes for the rest of us, right? But like going to bed after not killing a boss on a 0.8% wipe or 0.2% wipe, whatever it was, that's a tough feeling.
Yeah, dude. I mean, Echo, despite them losing a lot of their longtime members, they have gained a ton of really good players too. So it's not like it was entirely a loss.
Yeah, they yoinked Suri from Liquid. That, I think, pretty strong pickup. So the yoinks do go in all directions, but I think Echo definitely lost more players than they gained this tier. But I guess it's one of those things where like the players that you think are super important to a race, it's like you don't actually know
how. Yeah, how do people have been saying this for months? How do you guys know? Like,
well, just like number of players, they definitely went.
Yeah, but people aren't insinuating number of players. They're they lost those players. How do you know how good those players are, other than they are names that you have seen in the race for a while?
Yeah, I mean, for some of the players, like so I think a lot of it is like the bigger, streamers and stuff, right? Like people, there's always sort of a halo effect around the people that stream and have good viewership, and so those people are more known than their counterparts, even if they're not necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, they're
better.
Definitely the most reputable players, like Zilly and now, for example. Stuff, those guys are considered like some of the best players, and everyone's always like talking about how they're the GOATs. So of course, when everyone's leaving, like, it's a pretty big deal.
A lesson, if you were somebody who got baited by that this tier, a lesson should be, I don't actually know which people are that important for winning a race, and there's kind of no way to know from the outside.
I mean, as much I love being right, but I did say this whole time there's like multiple YouTube clips of everyone hyping up Method, and I'm like, guys, you don't understand. None of this matters. And I would like to think that was true.
Yeah, although the closer they get, the more it becomes a 3-horse race, the better it is for the race. So hopefully they will continue to improve, even if the actual like. It's hard because like it feels like they should have gotten closer even than they did this tier, but then objectively on the number they did have a pretty close to second thing. But I do think that it's something I think you were talking about this on stream, Max, where you were talking about how like they would have been happy with second, and I don't think that can be true for a guild that is a world first contender, right? Like that has to be something that goes away at some point.
I mean, kind of how this works right now is if you're good enough to get second, you are probably within range of getting first. Like, right. That's a thing. So maybe not, but I don't know. I wonder their players. Like, how many times can you get your hopes up? Forget fans. As a player, how many times can you get your hopes up that we're that good now? We're good enough to do this, and then you do a tier where you're not. Like, I know the fans are like, yo, we only lost to Echo by 2 hours. I promise you, none of the players in that guild are dumb enough to see the hour difference between their and Echo's kill and think that those two tiers were within 2 hours of each other. Echo played infinitely better than they did. So I mean, if you're in the guild, right, you got hyped up for Nerebar Palace. That was the raid where they were like, okay, we're gonna do well. They had a close kill to Echo. Echo got second, and they got close to them, similar to this tier actually. And then in Undermine, it was like, yo, this is our fucking time. We're fucking ramping. They didn't get nearly as close. Now, then they got all their hopes up again. I just wonder what their expectations were in the guild. Because like they got their hopes up for this raid, and it wasn't any different, you know? How many times can you go through that before? I mean, before like going into Undermine, it was hard for Echo to recruit Methods players. They had people get offers. Normally they would leave. They didn't because people believed. You know,
right? How long can you keep believing?
How long can you believe? Exactly. Where those people, where you keep your good players because they genuinely think that they can.
That was always the problem Pieces had, right? Was like, no matter how much they got better over each tier, their players never really believed it, and so their best ones were always poachable.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That made it so that it was, you were trying to like pail water out of the Titanic with a leaky bucket, right? It was just you were never actually making progress there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I see Method going forward. Like Sko says, he's like, I'm tripling down. Like we're gonna keep going for it, and they should, right? I just
something that Pieces never really had was that kind of, I don't want to call it delusional, but that very strong self-belief that that Method is projecting. And I think it's one of those things where like it's going to be really good if that ends up getting substantiated at some point. But I also am curious how long they'll be able to keep it up if they don't. I think probably another couple tiers at least, from how they've been talking at least. But it's one of those things where it would all fall apart pretty quickly if it starts to fall apart, right? Like, because once you lose a couple of your best players, then everybody else all of a sudden will stop believing as well, right? And then you're out of there. Then it's over.
Yeah.
I would say this tier definitely gained them a little bit of momentum. I mean, so I did remember, I think I remember hearing this at least. I could be completely making this shit up, but I do remember one of the Method streamers, it was like Now or Kush or somebody, saying how like, you know, they didn't have like any expectations to really win, but like obviously that's going to happen if you're basically a brand new group of players playing together. So I don't know if their expectations were high. Like, again, I could be completely making this shit up. I just like kind of remember this off the top of my head.
Yeah. So if you're someone of the people in Method that are former Echo players that have won a race world first before, I think you're getting a slightly different mentality. Something that someone told me was when people were leaving Echo in the current Raider channel, the goodbye post to their Raiders mentioned something along the rhetoric of, it's going to be nice to not have to worry about the head start anymore, which is kind of saying
we're playing versus you, not versus Liquid.
Yeah, we're going to this guild and we're raiding, and we are not like really going for world first is basically what that means. And I wonder if that also has something to do with it. Like, humans are human, and if Method has two different groups of people in their guild now that they've recruited a few of these people, they have up and coming people who have not won yet that really, really fucking want it. I can actually relate to this. When we made Limit, we had a bunch of former Blood Legion people who had gotten World First in Heart of Fear and had been going for World First for years, and they did not want to increase raid times and go for it. They wanted to raid 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, 5 hours a night, and just hang out. They're like, this is the GOAT. This is the best. And then you have people like me and other people in the guild that were increasing in numbers that were like, dude, we really want to go for this because we haven't done this yet. Method has two factions of those people. You have people who have already succeeded, and I'm not saying they're in there as like a retirement home. I'm sure those people would love to win, but that's not probably their main motivation, right? Like, they've done this before. It's not the end of the world for them if they join Method and they don't win. But for everyone else in Method, that is probably not true, right? Those people probably want to win more than anything, and I think the levels of that are going to be different between those two, and I wonder that could also maybe cause some fragmentation as well.
It's interesting because even though Sko was like has a million world first or whatever with Method, I kind of feel like he's in that camp of the first wanters. right? Whereas maybe the recent Deca recruits
maybe more than anyone else. I'm pretty sure Sko would if Sko ever won World First again, he could die and he would die happy at a very young age.
Fucking die on the spot.
He could die on the spot.
Yeah, I'm ready to just die.
Yeah, just blow up.
I'm ready to just let it go.
All right, let's see. Any other topics you guys want to cover in today's PoddyC?
I'm gonna do a bunch of stuff. What about Kyveza and the beginning of the patch stuff?
Didn't we already do a podcast on that? Did we not?
No, we completely skipped everything.
Did we skip Kyveza? I think we talked about Kyveza.
No way.
Before.
We definitely talked about Kyveza because we did one the week before the raid came out, and Kyveza was all there was to talk about.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I vividly remember having that conversation with you two, so I'm pretty sure it was on a podcast.
No way. Let me see.
I mean, we can talk about it real quick.
Kyveza we don't have to talk about it if we already talked about it.
Is that our take? Kyveza owns, and
I like how doing Kyveza prepped you for Salhadar mechanic as well. That's
that was cool. I mean, also just going into this patch, we were like, man, we don't really feel like delves have hit, and especially the part that was supposed to be made for us, that didn't hit. Well, Nexus Princess was. If they can make a Nexus Princess every patch, that's all we need from the delve thing, right? We're chilling. And then I've heard from people, delves are people like them. They're good. So everything delves.
Yeah, it's weird because the hard boss fight being tied to delves is kind of weird. Like the part where Bran is there and his level matters and his curio matters is such a weird thing to have attached to a challenge mode thing like Kyveza, especially when all that idiot does is go into his Griffin form and then place a rift in a bad spot and make it really hard. But yeah, that part is strange to me. I guess it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes it into something where it's also you could either do it by being good or by getting Bran really high level. But then I think that Bran being really high level should nerf that fight by more than it does. Because I did that during the first week it came out, and then I've done it recently with Bran being fully max level because I have a high level Bran because I do a bunch of delves on a bunch of vaults. And it didn't make it that much easier, right? It was still, you just had to do the fight for 8 minutes instead of 10 or whatever, and that doesn't change too much. So yeah, maybe that's something they should think about, what the objective is of having the delve companion be in there and stuff.
Yeah,
dude, other than that, I think it was just a pure dub.
Bro, I swear I don't remember us talking about this.
I could be wrong. I'm almost certain that we did.
Look, if you don't remember it, I'm sure there's a chunk of our audience that doesn't remember it. I'm sure that in the
okay, well, if they know, they could comment on it. But I'm pretty sure we haven't talked about this. I don't know. I thought Kyveza was such a banger. Yeah. I did it on my Boomkin. It was extremely brutal, but it felt fair at the same time. Mm-hmm. This was exactly what I've been looking for in a solo challenge, and if they can do more like this, that'd be fucking amazing. Also, Max, you got to do it on mid-item level on stream. It'll be amazing content.
Yeah, 1 second. I'm looking at our timeline of our last podcast. There is a 15-minute segment called "The People Love Delves," and I imagine it has to be in there somewhere if it's going to be in there.
No, that was just us shitting on delves.
I mean, we talked about it in this episode anyway. We think it's great. There you go.
Yeah, if we didn't talk about it on air last week, I genuinely don't remember one way or the other anymore. It's either way. Yeah, Kyveza W.
I have another one. So going into this season, there was a lot of apprehension and anxiety around hard mode Tazavesh mythic items, and people were like, "This is going to be the end of the world if I don't get this, or if I wipe our group and everyone yells."
I'm going to be permanently behind a myth.
I'm going to be permanently behind. It's fucking over. Do you guys feel like it played out that way? And then also, what do you guys think about that as a viable source of gear in a patch?
Okay, so I'm going to have a hot take. So at first, people did not like it and they were pissed, but I think it's actually amazing. I want to see something like this every season. Maybe not exactly this, but it just has to be something similar. I mean, we've talked about this at the beginning of the expansion about the idea of having a hard mode dungeon. Because hard mode dungeons are so different from just doing M+ or doing M0s. And I hope they explore that avenue more.
Yeah, I don't think I'm fully qualified to answer because I haven't lost one of these yet. So I don't know what that feels like. But
how many have you done?
I'm 8 for 8 currently.
Okay, I mean that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. It's the week one. Okay, the week one version was like stressful though. It felt like playing hardcore in an ARPG.
Dude,
right?
yeah, that is amazing though. It's so much content, and like I was actually thinking about like maybe doing one of those like hardcore moment highlight shit, but for this, that would go so hard.
Well, how, I mean, so how did it feel when you lost your run, Dorky? That like, what was that feeling like? Was that a good feeling?
I mean, I personally was like kind of whatever, but like for the people who fucked up and died in my run, they feel really bad about it.
I see.
And they should, by the way, like they should feel absolutely terrible for just breaking my run like that.
Yeah, we're helping ease the nerves of people that were fucking freaking out before. The Reddit was going crazy.
Here's the thing I don't like about it. I don't like that it creates just a huge gearing incentive to like PTR practice the ever living fuck out of this thing.
Yeah, that
is definitely like true. If you look at it and if they did this exact same thing next tier, every single guild will have learned from this that the answer is PTR test this thing until people can do it with 3 items unequipped, 10 times in a row.
Okay, I mean, but like to be fair, people who are playing at this level is already doing that cringe type behavior.
Yeah,
where they're like PTR testing raids and stuff.
My guild doesn't. We don't want to. We don't want to do like PTR Tazavesh testing. We will if we have to, but like this tier, at most people did 1 practice run on PTR. And a lot of people did 0, and that like, but then think about the amount of loot you're getting from it, right? 1 successful hard mode Tazavesh run gives more loot than a mythic boss. It's lower.
Oh, dude, it's awesome.
Tier, but like that is a lot of gear, and the fact that it hinges on the fully deathless run, I don't like that. I still, as somebody who is now 8 for 8, 8 wins, 8 attempts, I don't think that's good. I don't think that level of stress is like good for it to have, even though it was like, for me personally, I had a good time doing it. I had a great time making fun of all the people who didn't do it. For a while at the Liquid facility, there were 2 successful caster runs, and they were both me, and all the other casters had failed theirs. And that was really fun. I got to be really annoying to my friends about it. I love that kind of thing, but I don't think it's healthy. Like I think it should just be reattemptable. Like you just have hard mode,
that I agree with.
Challenge stuff that's hard to do, that's like not untimed M+ stuff that's good and rewarding. But like, why do you only get 1 try per week? I get that it would lose that feeling of being a hardcore, ARPG thing.
I think they have to exist together, right?
I don't know.
I just like there needs to be something that exists. The stakes is what makes the feeling of succeeding so much better.
I think the myth track loot is a pretty big part of it, though, and the stakes make that myth track piece of loot like so. The fact there's a myth track piece there means that like you're gonna feel. Again, I don't know how this would feel, but I imagine you would feel really bad if you griefed your group and lost a run. That would, I think, feel so bad that I don't know. I think that they don't should do stuff like this without that. Yeah,
like for example, we did all of them in the first week, and on the second week, like 3 casts went off on a player. We missed a stop, and 1 guy died in one of our Tazaveshes in week 2, and none of us ever thought about it again. Completely irrelevant. Like just straight up did not matter. Changed nothing. Didn't change our group eye level. Nothing.
If you guys were the ones with the 0.28% wipe and got world second, though, how do you think you would feel about it then?
Well, nothing we got from there would have made up that amount of damage, but
well, yeah, I guess 0.28% is probably still more
15 crests at that point. Second week, already looted your vault. 15 crests on. It was only 3 people were in for the kill. Would certainly have not done 0.28% of the boss's HP.
Okay, I think yeah.
The bigger one would have been getting a weapon. Really,
you succeeded 12 out of, or what, like 13 out of 14 of them, or something like that, right? 11 out of 12 of them.
If we failed all of them, that would have been bad.
Yeah, and you guys did do the PTR, Giga practice.
I'm just saying, one person missing 1 week from failing this, the whole idea that you're permanently behind is just like not even.
I think the thing about WoW though is like feeling like you're behind is often much worse than how far you actually are behind and stuff.
Yeah,
like I remember with Horrific Visions as well. The first time, people that missed a Horrific Visions run were like the people were like, "I'm forever behind. My character is bricked. I should delete it. I should uninstall the game. What's the point? My career is over. It's done." And like it wasn't that bad, but it felt worse than it was. So I don't know. I mean, if they do something like this every tier, I think they should at least either find a way to make it not PTR practicable, really make us put our money where our mouth is, right?
I mean, they're going to have to, right? They're going to have to create new ones because they're going to run out of hard mode mega dungeons. They don't even make them.
No, it doesn't have to be a mega dungeon. It could just be like a hard mode of some like normal dungeon. I think that would also be awesome. So
I think so as well. Like I think hard mode Tazavesh existing and being like an untimed +10 that gives rewards like a +10 is just phenomenal. That they should do that with every dungeon forever. That would be great.
Yeah. I mean,
so the single attempt per week thing I think is sketchy.
About the whole being behind thing, I think it's just people are not used to this being a thing. Hard mode Tazavesh, that is. Because I mean, you don't hear people complaining about being behind because they don't get Mythic Dimensius loot on the first week, right? Like, isn't it somewhat similar? Where
or not even Mythic Dimensius loot, just killing one extra Mythic boss, having an extra vault slot.
Yeah, exactly. Like Mythic Dimensius was an extreme example, but I mean, like it could just be like Araz too, right? Like how many people are realistically killing Araz in the first week? Well, it sure as hell is less than 100 players in the world, so they're technically missing out on loot there, right? So I think the whole idea of just like feeling FOMO because of something that you can't get is a little bit blown out of proportion. Like, sure, there are a couple people who are doing hard mode Tazavesh in the first week, but that doesn't mean like everyone should be able to just do it on the first week. And I don't think it's that bad.
It's Plunderstorm, right? It's the people want everything, and if you ever can't have something, you're just mad about it. Like I absolutely hate Plunderstorm. It's my least favorite thing ever, but I have to do it because I need these rewards, these cosmetics or whatever. So it's like it's what Drano said. It's the feeling of missing out is so much worse than actually. I mean, I can relate to that. It's like why I don't really play WoW a lot,
right?
Because like I'm not really that far behind. I could just like hit a quick viewer raid, spam a million Mythic Plus dungeons, and get caught up on crests. But like just knowing that I'm behind it all just makes me not want to log in. So
yeah, and starting this late into the season definitely sucks.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if people like it, it's probably good for me. I'm a clutch player. I can't lose these things, but my feeling was it would be more negative sentiment around it.
I mean, what do you guys think if you were to poll the WoW audience right now? Do you think it's like overwhelmingly negative? Do you think it's less negative than its perception was before it came out? Like, what do you think? We're making this up because all of us are positive for it, but
it's probably still negative. I mean, I think the biggest takeaway from this is we just need more sources of Myth Track loot because realistically, Myth Track loot only comes from your weekly vaults or Mythic Raid for the longest time, or crafting, I guess. But I mean, they just need to expand on the amount of options to acquire Myth Track, whatever that might be.
I don't know. I feel like all of this stuff except for the one-shot Deathless Attempt thing with hard mode Tazavesh is a huge slam dunk win. The actual Deathless Attempt, I think it's probably still worse than not doing that, but it's not that I want to take the Myth Track loot away. I just want to make it not something that you can fail like permanently.
It's just because they're trying to make this game for too many people, because the idea that they made something like, for example, getting the Myth Track item in week 1 was like very challenging. And
well, for some people,
doing something that's very challenging and getting a great reward because of how challenging it is, that is like peak MMO reward game design. That is what you want. The reason it's bad is not everyone is good enough to do it. Right? So there's just a wide range of skill people who play the game, and people who aren't good enough, they don't like the idea, well, not all of them, but like you don't like the idea of like making challenging things where you get loot, because if it doesn't meet the threshold of how good you are, then it means other people get something that you don't, and now you don't like it. Right? And that's probably one of their biggest issues they need to navigate constantly. But I don't know. I thought it was cool.
My suspicion is that of the people who thought it was going to be the worst thing ever, it probably wasn't as bad. Like most of those people are probably like, okay, this wasn't actually the end of the world, right? Because like, even though I'm saying I don't think it's great, I think that the fear around it was overblown. Like there were people that were up in arms and were like, this is the worst thing to have ever happened to gearing in a game ever, right? Like I think they were sort of letting it run a little bit more than it needed to in their heads, right? Kind of rent free. And I don't think it was that bad because like you said, you're down to a myth 1 piece, right?
I mean, isn't that the like one of the main fears of a lot of WoW players? Actually, it's like, why do people not want damage meters in games? It's like, oh well, I don't want someone to like chastise me for my performance. I'm just trying to like play the game and have fun, right? Isn't this like the ultimate feeling of that? It's like this massive, it seems massively important thing, and if like I mess up, this is going to be the worst version of that feeling you could feel. So I think the response should not have been surprising, right? Because it's just kind of like one of those things that is like the deepest fear of a WoW player, is being the person who's griefing all their friends.
Yeah. I don't know. I think in general, I like that they were trying it as well. I don't know. I struggle. Like, I think at least they should make it not PTR testable. If they want to run it again, make it so you can't like.
Yeah, they have to watch my guide on YouTube if they want to like know exactly how to overcome the challenge. I think that's how it should be.
Did you forget to link that to all of your teammates before that run?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that happens.
No, but like realistically, doing that hard mode shit, it's the most alive I've ever felt playing.
It's true. Like that,
that makes it great.
Is
right?
really good.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
You lose that if you make it so you can fail and try again. That's definitely true. Like that would go away if you could fail it and try again. You would not feel anywhere close to the same victory that you feel after like your first win. Right? That feeling, you can't really have the good without the bad there. So maybe it's worth it. I don't know. Maybe I'm.
It's also just content I could do with the boys every week. Like there's been many weeks where I'm just like, we're just gaming with the boys and we're just doing our nice chill hard mode Tazzy.
Yeah, it's sort of what you want 10-player rating for, right? Is like you get some of that with this. Obviously, it's 5, not 10, but it's the closest feeling to that you're gonna get, I think.
Yeah, it's like very different from M+ too.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Any other topics you just want to include in this week's episode? Going once?
It depends on how much we want to cover the midnight stuff.
What other midnight stuff do you want to talk about?
There's also like the whole Apex talents and
let's talk about that. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I was a little scared of that right away because I was like, oh, we're getting 10 new talent points. I'm like, man, we've talked about how like every time you're adding stuff here, when you first got the Dragonflight talent points, you got access to so many more cooldowns you couldn't have before. Like that's going to happen again. There's the defensiveness issue, but I actually kind of like the way they did it. The 3 class tree points, I think is basically like completely irrelevant. Like it's going to be a few extra like niche things for most classes. I don't think there's anyone gaining like insane amounts of power from that. The class trees currently don't really operate like that anymore. And if there are that I'm missing, it's like that's going to get phased out because they're just every update to class trees has been like you basically get everything you want and then you have a few points. The other 3 are going to be hero talent related, which is like super non-controversial. Hopefully there's no new defensive nodes, but I doubt there would be because there's already one on the hero talent tree, where you get 3 extra things. That's just not something you can choose. That's just hero talents got patched a little bit. All right, cool.
Right.
And then, so basically the only thing that matters is you're getting 4 spec tree points. I thought initially, like, could they have avoided this? And if they could have avoided it, or they couldn't avoid it, how many expansions go by before we stop adding spec tree points? Before they have to do something else like that? I find that kind of interesting. Like, because I do think it makes sense that they did this, and I'm not against it. Early spoiler. I thought the way they did Apex talents is actually really cool.
Yeah, well, you basically aren't getting spec tree points, right? Because you're going to have to put all 4 into this Apex talent.
Not really. So some of them are clearly build dependent. Like, so for example, 2 of 4 of preservation's points are like reversion, reduces damage by 2% and instead reverses that and heals you instead, which is very good, by the way. But what if you're not playing a reversion build? You're going to want to put that, or what if your spec tree is just missing 1 more point from having the most OP shit ever? Maybe you take only 1 of those 2 points, right? And they even said in the presentation, you don't have to put these all in the tree. I imagine probably most people will, but you will have the choice to do that by putting in your spec tree. Like basically you have to ask yourself this question. What would you do with 4 spec tree points right now? Some classes will tell you that would be fucking crazy. Like I would gain insane shit if I had 4 extra spec tree points. Well, for most people, these new Apex things are going to be even better. because you're going to probably opt to do that instead. So it's probably going to be massive power swings. But they don't seem super involved, and they seem more to like go into class fantasy and stuff. So I'm personally, they were going to do something. They weren't just going to release the next expansion, no updates to hero talents, no nothing. Like, they're going to do something, and I don't know when it ends, but I'm fine with it. I think it's cool.
Yeah, it seems like the least. Well, okay, so it's sort of like a Jenga tower, right? Where like as it's getting taller and taller, it's getting wobbly and wobblier, right? And this seems like the least extra wobbliness they could add to the Jenga tower that is talent points, while still giving you 10 new talent points, 10 new levels in a new expansion. So I think very very supportive of them setting it up this way. Contingent on 95+% of the time you put all 4 points into your Apex talent. I think if it's less than that, then maybe it's going to feel weird because, like, I don't know, some of the builds that you could make, if you just get 4 extra spec points, I don't know, and like your Apex talent isn't good, I don't think that's going to feel great.
Maybe so the way Apex talents work is you can put points. There's like a beginning and the end node are really good,
right?
But I don't know if you need to put in all 4 points to get the end node. It seemed a little hard to figure out.
It's like
from
one and then spreads and then
exactly, yeah.
back.
So you could get to that one and skip one of the side ones. So you're not skipping like the Omega cool thing with all 4 points. You're skipping the like reversion makes you take 2% less damage thing. Which if you were to like kind of make something similar like that for the other classes, which we haven't seen yet, I think those are relatively could be skippable. So it might end up being like you basically have 3 points locked in if that's what it takes to get the final Apex talent. And then it's either like you kind of buff up that Apex thing a little bit, or you can just add 1 Spectre point. But even a lot of classes, at least the ones I play, one Spectre point could do some shit like that. That could definitely give you some good stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Yeah, I mean, we talked about this last episode. Like, what do we expect to happen next expansion? And this kind of answers that question. I mean,
you remembered that from last episode, but not us talking about.
I'm telling you, we didn't talk about the Kyveza shit.
There's no way
I cannot be gaslit. I'm ungaslightable.
I think you're gaslighting us.
I am inflammable. But
dude, I've been successfully gaslit. Whoever of you is doing the gaslighting, I have no recollection of what we talked about last time anymore.
Okay, good. All right, at least you don't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just glad we're changing it up. Like I was saying, every expansion we need our gameplay to change, right? And this will probably change our gameplay one way or another. And it doesn't seem to be in a very drastic way. But yeah, I am also like slightly worried about what it might add to the game. It might become more PoE-like, is how I've been describing it.
That'd be a good thing.
But maybe not.
All games becoming more PoE-like. That'd be a good thing. That game is great. PoE 2 becoming more PoE-like. That's what we like to see. Okay, you guys want to do some controversial discussion? This has been the biggest source of controversy, by the way, not close on the internet. That Silvermoon is going to have an alliance, a portion that alliances kill on sight in. It's the hub city of Midnight, and there's a section of it that is for both factions, and there's a section of it where if you're alliance, they attack you. The guards will attack you.
Is that even with war mode off?
Even with war mode off, yeah, it's like walking into Stormwind if you're a Horde player, right? You're gonna get beat up.
Yeah, it's like you're in Dornegal right now, but if that part that you never go into right now, if you went in there, you would just get attacked by people.
Yeah,
is that controversial?
It is very controversial on the parts of WoW Twitter that I watch. It has stirred up a lot of discussion. There's been like they've been kind of waffling on what percentage, right? It was like there's been some of the early interviews made it suggest that a majority was like for both factions, and then there's others where it's like, oh, the majority is Horde only. It seems like the most recent line is that it's like 2/3 for both factions, and then 1/3 is the old Silvermoon area, and that's Horde only still. I don't know. People are up in arms though.
Okay. I could see it definitely not surprising that people are up. It's also where when we were saying like factions in this game, remember when they made this game cross faction, we were like, dude, it should have been like this the whole time. Like we've been asking for this shit. And then you're like, who would even disagree with this? all of the people you are seeing posting that. Clearly, factions super matter to people still. Not surprising. Obviously, I think for most of us, you'd get a big resounding like, "Who fucking cares?" But clearly, a lot of people do. So hopefully, Blizzard figures that out. I'm sure they're going to change nothing, and those people will get over it, though.
Okay, is there any other Midnight stuff that they announced? Because one of the weird things is like it was kind of hard to find all the information about the expansion in one place. They didn't really do a good job of rolling. There was like 10 different sources you had to peruse to find everything out about it. But I think
there's the whole UI stuff and like Plater.
Oh wait, that's definitely talk about that too. Yeah, that fucking also so I fully expect whenever these things are being released is that they're going to be released not good, and then over the course of like a year or two they will be good. I still feel that way about the cooldown manager and pretty much anything that they implement into the game. That's kind of seems to be what happens. Did you guys see like the initial nameplate like visual for customizing? It actually looked like really good. It looked like they're definitely on the right track with that. It looked clean. The nameplates in game are so bad right now, even if it's not like to replace Plater, and it's just better than what it is now. Oh my god, does the game need that?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the worst parts about Default UI.
Like that, and then the updates to the cooldown manager as well make me very optimistic for the direction that they're trying to take the UI overhaul thing in.
Because if you look at Plater, what does Plater still do that those nameplates wouldn't be able to do? Okay, well, you can like recolor everyone's nameplate, and you can have your kick. Like if the cast is able to be kicked by you at some point in the cast, you can see a little tick when your kick will come off cooldown. Then you have to ask yourself, should that be in the game?
Right.
Is that along the lines of things where like add-ons are actually just way too OP and we never needed that and in the first place? And should that even be a thing for whenever they end up removing this?
Yeah, or like hide all the Void Wardens except for the innermost one on the Dimensius platforms. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like is that something that nameplates should be able to do? I think hopefully most reasonable people would just say no.
I think Blizzard mentioned saying in an interview saying that they don't want that function to exist.
Yeah, and I think they're right. So that's good. They brought damage meters, like in-game damage meters and in-game bigwigs, which I find cool, but also like, okay, right now if we have timers wrong, I know exactly who I need to yell at to get those timers right. Am I gonna have to like, bro? I'm like, you'd assume they're gonna be correct, but like, could you imagine if it's now like we're getting to a boss and we're like, Blizzard, yo. The fucking timers are off. We need you to fix this. That's just like there is a 100% chance that will happen at some point in the future if they end up making actual bigwigs not work.
Okay, well, so do we know if this will exist or coexist with bigwigs and Plater and all that?
They're not removing. I mean, the same Hakili still exists right now. They're not. Yeah, they're not introducing this stuff and then killing the function that makes those things work. They're making sure.
Well, they're killing some functions at least, right?
I think long term their plan is to kill bigwigs, but for a while we're going to have both.
Long term, they want to. The main reason all this stuff is going away in general is actually purely so in-fight computational assignment weak auras can't work, basically. And whenever they pull the switch on that, it's going to ruin the functionality of a lot of other add-ons because of the way that the game like codes things. So it's not until they're making that change, which I don't think will be for a long fucking time. Like years and years and years will go by. In fact, I think that's the smart thing too. I think Blizzard should implement this stuff, iterate on it, make it better. And if you're ever going to pull the plug on add-ons, or specifically those add-ons, do it once you've had enough time to make sure that what you have is sufficient.
Yeah, 100%. I'm definitely encouraged by how it's looking though, because it looks like the thing that I didn't want to lose was the customization, right? And like having things look like, I don't like that a lot of the difficulty of other games is displaying my information in a way that is easy for me to see and like comprehend. So I like that they are not trying to take that away. And the thing is, like, it would be really hard to make the base UI as customizable as Plater and stuff is, but it looks like they're on the right track for starters. So that is very poggers. Dude, there was another interview actually that was Or I don't know, you guys want more on add-ons?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Stuff?
I was gonna say the biggest thing I want gone is reminders and Omni CD type shit.
Yeah,
like that type of stuff is so annoying in the game.
Interesting.
I don't want my game to be yelling at me exactly when to be using certain assignments. Or
liquid reminders is like the biggest recent new thing that you have to be a good
it's kind of always been around, but yeah, it's definitely
OP.
gotten more streamlined. Yeah.
Like, I guess OP, but I find it hard to believe that they're going to be able to get rid of that, because people are so used to it now that you would use a third-party program that you press play on.
Yeah.
This is very easy to create, by the way. Where you just press play. You can do it on a fucking YouTube video, and you could.
Do you think it'll be normalized though?
Normalized, definitely not. But utilized by the high level, 100%. Because it would just make you play better, right?
Yeah, I mean that'd be kind of expected. It'd be more about like if the rest of the players would use it.
Yeah. I don't really know what they do with that, but like that's one thing. Omni CD, it's like, okay, do I need to see everyone else's cooldowns? It's like, well, right now, because the way the game is working with stops and stuff, the answer is yes. But like, is there a world where you don't have to see those things and you also don't need to stop everything? I actually don't think that's true, because they mainly make Mythic Plus for like the 10s, the 12s. And like at a certain point in Mythic Plus, you just need stops, because it's just going to scale infinitely, and it's eventually all those casts are just going to fucking kill you. So I don't know if there's really any way to solve that. And if that's the case, they like Omni CD is just like, maybe, I mean, couldn't Omni CD just be built into in-game party frames or the cooldown manager a year from now or something? Like, is that something?
So the way I see it is, Omni CD should only show the important things. Like, it should really only show maybe like one or two of their defensives and their main offensive cooldown. It's kind of like, you know how in League of Legends you can see if people have their ult up or if they have their flash summoner spells, and I think that's like the extent it should track. The amount of tracking going on right now is a little bit extreme, and I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, I think it's like, if it was worth it to track something and then they take it away, and then our answer is like, well, this is so important to track that I have to track it another way, or like I have to really try and count in my head. I don't think that's the right answer. I know there are people with fond memories of, counting for 2 minutes after somebody's CDs in PvP or whatever, but like, if something like leg sweep, for instance, is so vital to an M+ pull that I really need to know if it's up or not, then I think it's important that I can see its timer. But if they can redesign M+ such that I don't need to know when my monk's leg sweep is ready, then I don't need to see it, and I'm glad to take that information away from all of us. That's sort of where I'm at on it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I definitely don't like the current state of M+, where it just becomes AoE stop central, and you're just trying to make sure not a single bolt goes off. Like, that type of gameplay is complete dog shit. Even Raid doesn't even have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And if Raid doesn't have to deal with it,
though, like, isn't that going to happen? Like, even
no, I mean, that's just with them designing too many kicks and bolts. Like, really, like, if you just had way less,
do you really think they're designing that many kicks and bolts for like 10s and 12s with the majority of people not? If they have that shit on their UI, they're not looking at it. You know what I mean?
It might be they're not, but they don't also need to exist for 10s and 11s, right? Like, does it really make gameplay that much more interesting when mobs are just sitting back there bolting people? I don't know. Maybe people enjoy that shit. I could be completely off about it.
I mean, I don't know if people enjoy it. I'm just saying, like, in the scenario where there's no Omni CD and they nuke that shit, I think dungeons are going to look very similar to how they look now, which is that stuff doesn't really matter that they're all stopped on a 10 or a 12, but when you infinitely scale to as much damage as you can do to time the key, it's probably going to kill you.
I mean, Blizzard would probably see that as a problem. At least I expect them to be like, like, there sure are a lot of problems with this particular dungeon, for example, now that Omni CD's gone, and surely that would prompt them to make some changes to how the dungeons are being played.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think a lot of people's takes on this sort of depend on how much Blizzard would fix things quickly after making a change and realizing it caused a problem. And I think there's definitely a lot of people who are understandably wary of that. But also, I think they have been doing better about that recently. And if they are good about that, then I'm a lot less worried about a lot of the downsides of doing a lot of these things, just sort of in general, the new philosophy.
Yeah.
speaking of new philosophy, there was a little tidbit in an interview. I don't have it in front of me, but they were talking about mechanics design and how Ecodome was sort of a new blueprint they wanted to use, where instead of having to learn 8 different sort of unrelated things in a spell book for a boss, there was one mechanic that was like important. Like you guys know the last boss of Ecodome, where you just have a bunch of things that spawn a spirit of you, and you need to collect it before it gets hit by any other mechanic. And there's like a bunch of different other mechanics, but they all are just clearly telegraphed, and it's like, oh, this is trying to hit my spirit, I better collect it fast. That's like a direction they're trying to move, where there's like one core key mechanic on the boss, and then instead of like 5 co-equal mechanics on it, there's one important one, and then a lot of other stuff that sort of keys into it. I think that would be really good.
I think a lot of good raid bosses are actually similar to that too.
Yep.
Yeah, like I think the best raid bosses are either like that, or they're the overlaps bosses, where it's like, here's 5 mechanics, learn how to deal with each overlap of the 2 of them. Yeah. And those can be really fun too.
Demencius last phase is literally that.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, even Kyveza, or not, what do you even call it? Nemesis, Nemesis Kyveza is an example of exactly that. Like, it's just an awesome fight where like the mechanics are happening fast paced, and it's only one at a time, and you're just focused on that one mechanic. You're not being like overloaded with a bunch of other shit happening, and it's just like super rewarding having that type of gameplay.
Yeah, I think that's I think it's a very promising sort of direction change for. Or like philosophy design for dungeons. So that was something I haven't seen much talked about, but I did want to highlight. And Frank will go find the specific wording. And
actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't see that, and I'm actually really happy to hear that, because Ecodome's an actual banger.
Great.
The two new dungeons they've come out with, Floodgate and Ecodome, have so far been really good dungeons. I'm actually a huge fan of them. So if they're going to continue with that design, me
isn't super surprising, because it sounds like they made them after they realized, okay, we've been doing too much. Like in Dungeons, right? Like they did the whole like pullback on all the mechanics and stuff, and then these 2 were created with the like, we shouldn't go too crazy in mind. That's definitely very good news for like next expansion's dungeons. I think like if they continue that same mindset, might be a bunch of bangers.
But then when they rework these older dungeons, they're not following that philosophy, which is kind of weird. True. Like Halls of Atonement, I mean, I still enjoy this current Halls of Atonement, but it's kind of lame, really.
I mean, sometimes you do good stuff, and sometimes you make Forge Weaver as hard as it is, and it turns out that sometimes you just make something that's really bad.
Yep, within us all, there are multitudes.
My whole theory on why they have Forge Weaver as hard as it is so that they can collect data from you guys. They're trying to have a wall so that they have some time for fine-tuning Demencius, and Demencius is only as tuned as well as it is because of the mid-boss wall. That's my theory.
I think they just fucked up. I don't think so. There's plenty of other information they can get. What about the single target boss we do after that? Like the damage profile of that fight that we're doing, we're in completely different talents than we're in on Forge Weaver than we are in any other boss. Like you're getting, like, it was Styx, same thing, just complete meme. Like you're not, like, what information are you even getting?
Nerf boomies. That's what we got from Styx.
Maybe. I mean, they had 2 really, really well-tuned last bosses of this expansion where everyone thought they were impossible, needed to get nerfed, and then they were basically exactly killable. You actually could have done a lot more of Demencius's HP with like another day of optimization, but Ansarek was like pretty much exactly what you could have done. And maybe that's because you fought Brood Twister for that long and they could get in for... Nah, I just don't even buy that, because that's like a fucking AoE fight. And then what about last year with Styx? They had more time on Styx, so they tuned Gallywix. Like, I don't know. It's a nice theory. I just don't buy it. I just think I think sometimes
it just seems way too coincidental that like it's always that like 4th or 5th boss that ends up being the mid boss wall.
It'd be a good interview question, actually, because like I would find it fascinating if Blizzard's like, "Yep, Forge Weaver went exactly to plan," because I'm almost positive it's like, well, fuck, we did it again.
Yeah.
Like, we keep doing this, and I just can't see any other world where it is not an accident.
I feel like for me, the most reasonable like defense they'd make for it is like, this wasn't a big deal. We nerfed it the next week. It affects a small set of players. It's kind of cool for the race. Maybe there's a couple of guilds in the world 5 through 100 range that are kind of screwed by it, but that's a very small portion of our player base. It's much smaller than the portion that are below it, or there are people that are watching the race and like seeing a really hard boss there. And it's really hard to get this right, so it's not a big deal if we get it wrong. Obviously, if we could choose to, we would have chosen to get it right, but we're not going to invest a lot of resource. Like, I think that's like the Steelman argument for this sort of thing happening. Well, I don't think it's a case of like, yeah, we actively want it to look like this.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, like, let's just say they need more data. Okay, well, how about doing it on bosses 5 and 6 where they're supposed to be harder and they're later in the raid and you're actually wearing proper talents and the difficulty curve wouldn't be ridiculous.
Yeah,
but it's like those bosses are easy.
Was harder than Forge Weaver. Did they? Because like, you know, obviously, like, they don't know how hard all the bosses are. Were they wrong about that?
Well, I do have some piece of information actually. So as far as I know, there is not one person with their hand on the dial tuning all these bosses. Typically, these bosses are worked on as a group, and they'll be the first people to tell you it's like it's a group effort or whatever. But these bosses are often owned by people. This is my boss. I am primarily the person who worked on this boss. They certainly collaborate, but there are people who do that. And those people usually have the final say on changes to their bosses. I don't know if that's exactly true with like health nerfs and stuff all the time, like near the end of the race. I'm sure Ian and the lead of fight design or whatever the fuck that role is called, those people I'm sure are all like have to sign off on those kind of changes. But like going into the boss, how tuned they are when we get there, I believe is actually like heavily determined, if not entirely determined, by the person who made that fight. So maybe an issue is the person who tuned bosses 4, 5, and 6 are just all 3 different people.
That sounds like the whole class design problem, where one person's making a tree and it looks amazing, and another person's making another tree, and they just have like completely different philosophies.
And you can't have one person make 39 trees because they're one human being. Then what you get.
Could well be.
Yeah, speaking of class design, there was the whole class tuning this season going in. It's kind of wild how it was all over the place.
Dude, I think class tuning looked like it was going to be generationally far off a couple weeks before, like a week before the raid came out. I think they mostly got it okay after that. Like,
yeah, they did. They did the changes they made on Friday and Monday changed us stacking like 2 resto druids the whole raid, 4 DKs on every boss. They nerfed all of that right in time, which is also, you know how typical, like we say this about Mythic Plus. We say like we go into every season, it's the worst dungeon pool ever. Yeah. And then you like play the season and it's like, okay, the dungeon pool's pretty okay. It's fine. They made some changes. It's good, whatever. Okay, same thing with that, like with class balance. Like going into the tier, it always looks fucking terrible and it always ends up being fine. I think it's kind of similar.
100%. It is kind of interesting though. This is the first time they've done tuning in the middle of the race to war first, right?
Technically, no. They like there was that weird BM bug in Emirdrasil where like BM Hunter was just randomly doing like 20% more single targets in every class in the game, and then they made that change like while we were gearing. Like this was like during gearing runs, and like I guess we could have just been like, oh well, I guess we have to gear 6 hunters, but like they fixed it pretty quick. I think they have done tuning before in a few raids, and it's almost always buffing things that are bad. And I think they've done it this expansion, where like they just see some stuff that's like a little too low, and they're like, okay, we can buff these going into week 2, and that doesn't really affect the race because, like, I mean,
or they see like a class Discord shutdown, and we decide like, maybe we have to give them some buff.
Maybe they bring one of those things now because we buffed it. That has happened before. And then maybe we, but like we don't want to nerf, and they can gear it. I guess if like they know ahead of time it's being buffed, they can spend time gearing it if they think it's going to be good on the reset. That doesn't fuck them. But what does fuck us is like this class is super, super crazy. We gear 3 of them. We give a bunch of mythic loot to it. Other guild chooses to gear another class. Like, and then now they nerf this thing. And it's like, okay, well, that could really fucking hurt us. So they don't do that. But I think they've done tuning like this before. Which they nerfed. They had some funny buffs. I found it fun to follow it. So number 1, they nerfed Affliction,
Yeah, that was really funny.
Which was you just didn't even play Affliction.
That was a Fury Warrior situation.
It was a week 1 OP thing because like their old tier was still good, and
it was like a very specific fight.
You were exactly right. Yeah. It is exactly Fury Warriors on specifically Ansurek getting nerfed in every other area of the game because of heroic logs. And then they buffed Fire Mage, which everyone was initially freaking out about because Fired Up and Hopeful killed the first 3 bosses as fire purely as a bit. It was purely a bit. There was zero. We were surprised to see it topping boss damage on Soulbinder, which is when people were like, "Oh my god, maybe fire is actually the best," and like everyone's wrong. But it was purely a bit. So then like people were just going crazy, like, "Oh my god, they're buffing this next week now." But yeah, it was like obviously fire was bad. It needed to get buffed. Ret got buffed. I think Ret's
Class
fine
Discord.
now.
Yeah, Ret should. They
no,
should
you
make
can't
sure
say that.
It's
It's not fine. They need at least 2-digit buff. I'm not sure about 5%.
That was a good bit. I gotta say, like, I don't know what initially caused them, like how serious they were when they initially shut it down, but it was so funny. I'm glad they did. That was
why
really
it's because of Max. Max told the public that
what I do
if you want your class to be fixed, you just have to whine about it really fucking hard. You just have to complain and whine. And it works.
Is a objective
it actually worked.
Back. Yeah.
No, yeah, you were completely right about it, by the way. Like, it actually works. Really, like, if you just
they weren't gonna
are
buff
vocal enough.
And then the class Discord server went down, and they immediately put out notes that were going to buff it. Those hadn't been getting prepped.
That's not true.
They had to do it. The Discord got shut down. There was no counterplay. They were checkmated.
Yeah, they were kind of checkmated.
It was a good sequence, though. I liked the drama around that. I love it when there's drama around that kind of stuff, and WoW. It's just so funny and so harmless.
Boys, ID P3, everyone alive. We got to end the podcast.
All right.
Oh shit.
All right, lock in. I guess that'll be
the Patreon question. We don't need to. This was a fucking long one, wasn't it?
This is a long one. Yeah, Frank didn't put one as well, so that's on him.
Who would have guessed? Also, if you guys are fans of the podcast, we're gonna have a pretty big episode soon with a huge announcement. So be on the lookout. Or blow up.
That's right. All right. Adios.